After I got my diploma.
You get it full screen?
Right.
You get it full screen?
Yeah.
I'll start with an announcement. There is a pair of glasses that someone left at the front desk. They look more like female glasses, but yes, actually they are unisex glasses.
What do you think?
Nice job, Steve.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service. I'm Steve Wicks, and I'm honored to serve as your president this year. Please silence your electronic devices. Did anyone have a hard time getting a parking space today? I would like to take credit for that, but I did not send all the students home for Thanksgiving. On this day in history, November 25th, 1920, the first Thanksgiving Day parade took place in Philadelphia. And now Martha Wales will share today's reflection.
Well, there's a new test for citizenship, and it just came out in October. Some background for those of you who are not particularly familiar with how things work. Most visitors to the US come as tourists, or they may come as students, or they may come as workers in various kinds, but they are non-immigrants. And then there are immigrants who are also known as people with green cards or permanent residents. And then some people go on and become US citizens. Some people just remain as permanent residents. And I would like to start with a story about Moya Andrews. You remember her for Focus on Flowers, and we had some memories of her, gosh, earlier this year. So here's my story. I was riding my bike to work one day, and she called me over. She was walking a dog with some friends. And she said, I just had my citizenship test, and I want to tell you about it. She had 3 questions that she'd had more questions asked as part of the test. But she told me 3, and I only remember 2. The first one was, how many original colonies were there in the United States? And she said, 14. And he said, no, fewer. And she said, 12. And then she got 13. The other question that I remember was, what were the last 2 states to be taken into the US? And she said, Alaska and Puerto Rico. And he said, no, but it is an island entirely surrounded by water. And so she nailed it on Hawaii. He did pass her, which I'm not sure would happen now, except that she'd been a permanent resident forever. And at the end, though, he looked at her and he shook his head sadly, and he said, and you teach at Indiana University. So anyway, that was the story. Now to the test. The Washington Post had a nice piece on this, which is where this mostly comes from. The applicants are asked 20 questions that are chosen at random from 128 questions that are given out with answers to prepare from. That's a study guide. That's larger pool than the previous test was. And some of them, there's supposedly a greater focus on American history, and some revised questions require longer answers than before. They published 10 questions based on the study material, 2 from the old test and 8 from the new one. Applicants must now speak their answers. It's multiple. The other one was multiple choice, and you studied multiple choice. You still probably had to speak it, but now all you do is you're asked a question and you have to answer it. So it's harder, and particularly if your native language is not English. So I will read the questions, the 10 questions that the Post published. I'm not going to wait for answers, but I think you might be interested in whether you would need to study for this test. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Okay. I should do what Steve does. Raise your hand if you know. All right. And second, name a power that is only for the federal government? Third, what amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are U.S. citizens? That one we've had a lot of newspaper reporting on and other kinds of reporting recently. 4, the American Revolution had many important events. Name one. 5, why were the Federalist Papers important? 6, James Madison is famous for many things. Name one. Seven, when did women get the right to vote? 8, why did the United States, and that was not all women, by the way. Anyway, 8, why did the United States enter the Persian Gulf War? 9, name one example of American innovation. 10, what is Memorial Day? And, you know, right, people send comments. They have an AI summary of the comments that were sent. The comments express significant criticism of the new U.S. citizenship test, particularly its focus on historical trivia rather than civic understanding. Many commentators argue that the test includes questions that are irrelevant to assessing a person's ability to be a good citizen, such as specific dates or historical figures, rather than focusing on the structure and functioning of the U.S. government. There is also skepticism about whether prominent figures, including President Trump, would pass the test, with some suggesting that the test should be required for all elected officials. Overall, the sentiment is that the test should emphasize understanding of concepts over rote memorization of historical facts. I think this would be kind of a fun thing to do at your own Thanksgiving dinner. You can find this quiz and the answers recommended on the web. And I think it, you know, if you have people on both sides of our current divide, it's something that is more or less objective and I think might be kind of fun. So.
Thank you, Martha. Lynn Schwartzberg will introduce our guest today.
Well, welcome, Rotarians. We have a wonderful list of guests today. When we call your name, or I call your name, I'm not a we, please stand so we can recognize you. First, we have Annabelle Watson, a guest of Judy Witt. We have Linda Stroman, the daughter of our dear Ellen Stroman. Dwight Thompson, who is trying to channel Jim Bright and also is a guest of Jim Bright. Kevin Gearhart, the father of Megan Gearhart, our speaker. Jess Smith, who is also a guest of Jim Bright. Welcome, Jess. I believe Jim Bright has solidified his first place in bringing guests to Rotary this year. And Rachel Hams, yeah, and that is a guest of Megan Gearhart. Do we have any guests online?
We do. We have Melanie Gearhart, that is Megan's mother,
Oh, wonderful.
and Jim Bright as well as online.
If you have any questions about Rotary, or if you have more interest in learning about our club or perhaps joining our club, please speak to someone at your table. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I'd like to take a moment to say a bit more about a couple of our guests. Jess, can you stand up? So our club has endorsed Jess Smith in her quest to become the next All-Indiana Global Scholar. Originally from Rochester, Indiana, Jess is the first member of her family to graduate from college. She is currently a Master's of Public Affairs student at Indiana University's O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. Jess hopes to attend Seoul National University in South Korea, where she would study and develop policies that strengthen women's leadership, workforce equity, and community well-being. Jess, good luck. And then Dwight, if I get you to stand. So we also have with us Dwight Thompson, who is the president of the Brown County Rotary Club, and he is our All Indiana Global Grants Scholarship Committee Chair. And Dwight was recently recognized by District 6580 for becoming a Rotary Major donor. So through regular giving to the Rotary Annual Fund over the course of many years, Dwight has given a total of $10,000 to the Rotary Foundation. So Dwight, congratulations and thank you for your generosity and your continued service for Rotary. Rotary birthdays, 26, past club president Ron Barnes. 27th, our current Community Services Committee co-chair Michelle Cohen. And on the 30th, our Scholarship Committee chair Jeff Richardson. Anniversaries, we have a number. On the 29th, 2, Tim Riffle, 3 years, and our program's chair, Michael Shermis, 14 years. And then a bunch on the 1st. Kay Leach, 37 years. Scott Walters, 37 years. Tina Peterson and Marcus Whitted from the Community Foundation, 6 years. And Jimmy Torrey from the NAACP, 6 years. Announcements, we still need a roundabout reporter for the month of December. See Marilyn Wood if you're interested. We still need 3 more club members to ring Salvation Army bells at Kroger East and Kroger South this Saturday. As of this morning, we need 1 volunteer at Kroger East from noon to 2. We need a volunteer at Kroger South from noon to 2, and a volunteer at Kroger South from 2 to 4. We also need a few more volunteers to serve on 12/6, 12/13. Jonas Chang is away this week on vacation. Dave Myers is sick. So you want to see me after the meeting. If you can serve, let me know, or send one of those 2 individuals an email. Please sign up for the club holiday party on December 11th at the Bloomington Country Club. Cash bar opens at 6 p.m., followed by dinner at 6:30. Tickets are $60 each. $10 of the ticket price supports club operations. You can pay for your tickets outright, or you can be billed by the club for the tickets. If you want to go, either see me in person or send me an email. My email address is in Roundabout. DEI committee plans to meet after the club meeting on December 9th. Meeting is open to DEI committee members as well as club members who would like to serve on the DEI committee. We plan to have a Zoom option for those who can't attend in person, and contact DEI Chair Patrick Smith if you have questions. Remember, Giving Tuesday is December 2nd. Rotary Club organizational member Wheeler Mission has scheduled a 5K run walk dash for shelter, Cars Farm Park on Saturday, December 6th. Please see me if you'd like additional information. The sign-up link will be in the Rotary Roundabout. And then Sarah Laughlin, do you have a very brief follow-up from last week's presentation?
I guess I'll start out with just a huge thank you. We passed out last week the details about your current signups for various Bloomington Rotary Foundation projects and Rotary International projects. And as a result of that, we have 8 new 80/20 participants, which is huge. In addition to that, we have 4 new Every Rotarian Every Year participants. A round of applause. 1 memorial gift, $236 in the hat for Charlotte, and $500 in pledges in the forms, and $153 in the hat for RI, and 2 prospects. who asked us to call them about participating in the endowment. So thank you all very much. If you weren't here last week, you probably got an email from us with the same kind of form and follow-up, and we'd love to hear from you. It's really a big part of our club to make a small contribution every quarter to move our marbles forward. So thank you. I'm so proud of our club.
Thanks, Sarah. And for those of you who weren't here last week, we passed the hat for Charlotte Zetlow, a recently deceased member. There's still an opportunity if you want to make a cash donation on your way out to donate either to Rotary International or the Bloomington Rotary Foundation. And now let's move to our weekly celebration of service. Okay, a big week for us this past week. It was the first phase of our district grant project. Meals on Wheels was our district grant recipient, and we helped them replace some really old styrofoam coolers with some insulated meal bags. And here are a couple of pictures. On the left, you can see Don and Melinda Cedar, Mike Baker, Tracy Ivanovich, and Tina Swanson, and you can see the new bags. And then on the right, a picture of Sarah Laughlin and some Meals on Wheels volunteers. And I want to thank a couple of people in particular, Diana Hoffman and Sarah Laughlin. Diana Hoffman is the club member who pitched the Wheels on Wheels project in the spring. And she was able to convince the Community Services Committee that it should be the recipient for the district grant. And then she has followed up since then and just done a lot of legwork making it happen. So a lot of work on Diana's part. Sarah Laughlin is our club district grant coordinator. There is a lot of paperwork that goes on behind the scenes involving the district grant. So anyway, I want to thank the two of them. And then on the right, the club members who participated, Mike Baker, Michelle Cohen, Peggy Frisbee, Tracy Ivanovich, Art Omick, Don and Melinda Cedar, Tina Swanson, Sam Udak, Hao-Shi Wang. I participated, and then Marilyn Wood. So thank you all. The next phase of this project will be in January. I think it will involve stocking freezers. Reminder, November is Rotary Foundation Month, and the quote from Paul Harris, whatever it will mean to the world will be known by the results that we achieve. Happy Dollar proceeds in November and December will go to the Rotary Foundation. Remember Giving Tuesday, December 2nd. And then I'll linger here a little bit. So here on the left is a picture of Paul Harris. And on the right, Paul Harris and the three other first Rotarians. So do me a favor when you look at these, and this was taken over 100 years ago, would you describe these four individuals as cool or hip or with it based on today's standards? Put up your hand if you think these are really cool guys. All right, we have one. Well, I think you're wrong, and we'll see why on this video.
How does a lawyer, shy guy in Chi-Town, no high clout, start a club with four guys, no cash, just hide out? By trust and friendship, fellowship and truth, turn a local lunch into a force for the good. The name's Rotary, just a seed with a mission. 1905, growing faster than tradition. Four-way test, yeah, we aim with precision. From room 711 to a world-changing vision. Without a script, without a plan, they met and shook each other's hands. Let's serve above ourselves, they said. Now see the banner that they spread.
There's a million strong who heed the call, fighting polio. We stand tall, from Wales and Ghana to peace in Nepal. Rotary's revolution has touched us all.
Change makers, peacemakers, globetrotters, clean water bringers, child health supporters. We mentor the youth, build bridges, not borders, scholarship givers and frontline reporters. Eradicating polio, we take the shot. Partner with Gates, yeah, we give it all we got. In war zones, flood zones, drought and despair, Rotarians show up because we care.
We lift up girls, bring literacy to the streets, empower every voice where oppression repeats. Diversity, equity, inclusion, we own it. We're changing the world, don't need to postpone it. From Rotary Youth Exchange to the Peace Fellows, our vision rings out like a string of old tellos. Not just meetings and meals, we bring solutions. This isn't a club, it's a quiet revolution.
Yo, we built it from local to global scale with a wheel that turns and never fails. Districts rise, zones unite, we shine the light in darkest night. Service projects, grants and rise, changing lives before your eyes. And when the storm of need begins, you'll find repairing rolling in.
You'll know the name, Rotary.
They'll feel the flame.
Rotary.
We fight disease.
Rotary.
We plant the seeds.
Rotary. We are the ones who won't just wait for fate. We rise with hope. We educate. We don't throw away our shot to lead. We serve, we give, we plant the seed.
Just you wait, we elevate. Changing lives in every land, revolution led by serving
Yeah, we'll get that shared. Michael Shermis will introduce our speaker today.
That was fun. Okay, I'm going to start off today by thanking you all for your generous support of the Rotary Foundation, which, among other things, helps to fund the All Indiana Rotary Global Grant Scholarships. Through your support, you make it possible for outstanding young adults, like today's speaker, to pursue a graduate level degrees at overseas universities and to change lives. This slide shows the 7 Indiana scholars we funded through our foundation giving. At upper left is a 2018-19 scholar, Aubrey Sater, also my coworker, and daughter of the fellow Rotarians, Don and Melinda Sater. And at lower middle right is today's speaker, Megan Gearhart. Our global scholars have studied at universities in London, Tokyo, Berlin, Spain, the Czech Republic, and in other countries, and they're working in places far and near to make this a better world. Previously, these scholarships were funded largely through our district's, the DDF, or the district designated funds. In 2024, we decided to take the program statewide and partner with the districts in central and northern Indiana. In exchange for their financial participation, we opened up the application process to students from Purdue, Ball State, Butler, Valparaiso, Notre Dame, and other central and northern Indiana universities and communities. Today, each of those of the 3 Indiana districts contribute $8,000 from the DDF with $16,000 from the Foundation's World Fund. Now through mid-December, Indiana Rotary Clubs are accepting applications from students who have graduated or will graduate in May 2026 from a 4-year Indiana college, or who maintain a legal residence in Indiana. The $40,000 scholarship will enable a scholar to study 1 to 4 years in a graduate program at any qualified university outside the U.S. The program is open to exceptional scholars dedicated to pursuing a career in an area of great humanitarian need and who demonstrate a long-term commitment to measurable, sustainable change. And now it's my pleasure to introduce a wonderful goodwill ambassador to Rotary, the state of Indiana and the USA, Rotary Global Scholar Megan Gearhart. After graduating from IU Bloomington with degrees in international studies and in tourism, hospitality, event management, and a certificate in informatics, Megan was selected to be our district's Global Grant Scholar for 2023-24. Megan participated in an intense 2-year Erasmus Mundus joint master's degree program in global development policy that took her to the Czech Republic, France, and Italy, and Megan graduated at the end of June 2025. Erasmus Mundus Masters are prestigious international master's degrees designed and delivered by a group of higher education institutions in the UK and in Europe. They involve at least 3 institutions from at least 3 different countries and multiple associated partners from the academic and non-academic world. Megan is the only Indiana scholar accepted into this prestigious program. Originally from Roanoke near Fort Wayne, Indiana, Megan is a former Rotary Youth Exchange Ambassador to Kaohsiung, Taiwan District 3510, and in 2019, Megan co-founded the current IU Bloomington Rotaract Club, serving as president and in other leading leadership positions, and she completed a certificate as the new generation positive peace builder through a Rotary Zone grant in 2021. While pursuing her master's degree, Megan attended Rotary meetings across 5 countries, participated in Rotaract UN Day, gave a keynote at the Rotary Youth Exchange pre-convention in Calgary on engaging the next generation, and co-hosted a discussion on peace building and why eventually Megan wants to work in an organization where she can help communities, governments, and organizations create sustainable growth plans and policies that balance economic consideration with the environment. And for those who've been here longer than a couple years, we all know how much we really enjoy and appreciate seeing Megan in the flesh. So please join me in welcoming outstanding Rotary Global Grant Scholar, Megan Gearhart.
Yep. Hi, everyone. It is really nice to be back in Bloomington, Indiana. It's a little bit different here. I don't know if any of you have actually thought about how much it's changed, but in the 2 years I've been gone, it's very different than it was. So we're gonna start. Haha, there's my face. You all have to see it. So to start, I'm actually going to give you guys a little bit of a recap. I know a lot was said in that introduction, but I love any opportunity to show you guys pictures from all of my Rotary journeys. So these are all photos from my youth exchange in Taiwan. To give you a note, it has been 10 years since I started my involvement with Rotary Youth Exchange. It was 2015 in the fall. I was an outbound in 2016, and that is a 3-year process. So I have officially been involved in Rotary for a decade. And I'm 25. Now, during my time here at IU, I not only participated in Rotaract, getting that off the ground, but I also had opportunities to help out with RILA. It was a lot of fun, even with, the fun of COVID interfering with our fun times at Bradford Woods. I had a wonderful opportunity to get to know many Rotarians, but also a lot of young leaders in the area. And during my master's degree, I didn't just study in the classroom. I also did a ton of Rotary activities, both in and outside of my academic realm. So I attended a Rotary, it's a camp, but it's for Rotaract age students. And that one was actually in Taiwan, and it was a photography camp. I used it a little bit as an excuse to go back for the first time since my exchange, but it was also a wonderful opportunity to meet Rotaractors from around the world. I got to attend meetings in the Czech Republic, France, Italy, the Philippines, Geneva, so UN headquarters. I got to meet the Geneva International Club that does their meetings from the UN. I can't imagine the headache of going through security every single time they wanted to go into their meeting. But all of these things impacted my experience. And I have a couple of things that I want to share with you. One of which, I don't know how many of you know who that is in the center, but the center is Rotary International President from Italy this year. About 2 weeks before the convention, he found out he was going to be our president. And I met him in the airport in Frankfurt. I had spent the night at the Prague airport. I was in my sweatshirt and my sweatpants. I probably stank to high heaven and back. And I met Hassan. He is a sergeant at arms. He's been a sergeant at arms for Rotary International conferences for the last 4 years. And he was so nice. He's like, you look lonely. I see your Rotary logo. I'm going to talk to you. And in the middle of a conversation, he stops absolutely everything. And he goes, we need to go say hi to somebody. And he turns me around and he goes, hello, Mr. President. And I go, oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not dressed for this. And everyone was very nice. But it reminded me that airports, just because you're traveling and you're in your comfy clothes, doesn't mean you don't have to be ready to represent Rotary at every step and turn. And it was just one of several opportunities that I had to be very uncomfortable. So my degree program is a little bit interesting. It's a little bit different than most people's because I did a joint degree, which means it was issued by 3 different universities. And rather than try and explain them all to you, I figured I'd put them up here on the screen so you can kind of see what I did, because it's a little bit hard to describe. So I went to school for the first semester at Pulaski University in Olomouc, Czech Republic. It's in southeast Czech Republic, about 3 hours north of Vienna and about 2.5 hours southeast of Prague. During that time, I studied with very interesting professors from both all over the Czech Republic and several very interesting PhD students from places like Morocco. In France, we joined a cohort of existing students from everywhere: Ghana, Chad, Burkina Faso, Haiti. We had classmates who were from France, though very few. We had classmates from all across the Francophone-speaking world, and although our classes were in English, it was a lesson in how much French is different based on where you learn how to speak it. And to be fair, I want to start because this is an important concept. And I know it's a little bit, some of you might have heard this term, but the Institute for Economics and Peace has actually separated out the concepts of positive and negative peace. And Rotary International partnered with the Institute for Economics and Peace and actually has a training course on the Rotary website. So if you guys are interested in learning more about positive peace and the way that that has impacted, I know you have a massive champion in Aaron Davis in this club. But positive peace is the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. It allows us to be resilient in the face of challenges and issues and conflicts within a community. And this is important to my degree program because I was one of 22 students and I was the only American. My classmates came from a variety of places, from Germany and Italy and Spain and the Netherlands to Egypt, Malawi, Botswana, Rwanda, and South Africa. I had classmates from Nepal and Cambodia, Bangladesh, India, Venezuela, Mexico, Brazil, and Afghanistan. Being an American in the room with all of these people from all of these countries is an exercise in being uncomfortable. Whether it was in a classroom where we had to sit and listen to lectures, ask questions, and my classmates tell their firsthand experiences of all of the things that have happened to them, the histories of how their governments came to be, the personal experiences of their families having to flee one region or another for various purposes. It's really hard to be the person in the room where they'll say, yeah, so this US exercise caused this thing, and everyone goes, oh, she'll have an opinion. And so the first thing I want to share with you is that being uncomfortable is important. I had a professor from Kazakhstan. He flew in from Almaty to teach us for a week about poverty and the impacts of poverty and the environment in Central Asia and why we, as a group of people who were not from Central Asia, should care. We had professors from Colombia come in and talk about peace and conflict and the role of the government in bringing societies together after a challenge, after guerrilla warfare, and all sorts of things that have caused civil conflict. But also that the government can have a very negative role when the government doesn't think about things like identity or the fact that they contributed to these conflicts to begin with. And I sit in the room as the only American, a little Midwesterner, trying to navigate these very uncomfortable conversations. And I learned more in that discomfort than I did sitting in a room where everything made sense. I learned that sometimes I didn't need to have a response, that sometimes just shutting up and acknowledging that I was uncomfortable, but acknowledging that it was important to talk about was okay. My classmates never blamed me. It was never, you are who your country is. You are not the actions of your country and your history. But when you are the only representation that they have ever met, what you do and how you respond to these uncomfortable discussions is important. And this is important for Rotarians. And you, as Rotarians at Indiana University, have the opportunity to meet people from all over the world. Indiana University sends students on exchanges. More than 70% of students go. You guys have faculty from every corner of the globe here at this university, which means that your community is made up of people from all over the world. And some of the people in your community may not have had good experiences with the government of our country. They may not have had good experiences navigating visas, which, let me tell you, is a headache even on the best of days. I had to get a visa for every place that I went to. Whether I wanted to just pretend like I was, a normal person or not, my German classmates had it much easier because they didn't need a visa for France or Czech Republic or Italy. However, my experience was still much better than that of my Afghani classmates. My Afghani classmate was the last person to receive their visa to Italy. And when I say the last, I mean he applied in March and he did not get his visa until June, after our cohort sent an email saying, "We know that the Italian government would never do something xenophobic or racist, but we are wondering if you could help explain to us why our classmate, the only person in the program who hasn't gotten their visa yet, is still waiting." It took 2 days after that email was sent. Now, whatever the reason it was, whether it was intentional or unintentional, whether it was political or not, we were able to impact change. And it started not because we got angry, although I think several people were, but because we were willing to engage in dialogue. And dialogue doesn't just happen inside the classroom. Dialogue happens in grape vineyards and at the UN. It happens in fields and on hikes up mountains with volcanologists who, let me tell you, are not Star Trek fans. They study volcanoes. And we had one, I know, it was a little disappointing to find out he wasn't just a Trekkie. But our volcanologist professor, his name was Ben, and he was actually from the UK. And you would think, why is he in France? But I don't know if you know, there are dead volcanoes in the center of France. And he studies the impact of these dead volcanoes on the climate and the ability to grow produce and agriculture in central France. So he took us out into the vineyards and he showed us vines that had been planted 30 years ago and 20 years ago and 2 years ago. And he had us try them. And then he talked about how climate changes, whether man-made or not, were impacting that region's ability to produce grapevines. It's very interesting when your firsthand experience is literally eating the grapes off the vine and seeing how different they taste. It's the same breed, it's the same species, and the only difference is how long it's been alive and the climate and the soil of the area. We got to go to the UN and I got to see how long it took my Pakistani classmates and my classmates from Chad to go through security at the UN in comparison to me. They were all very nice, but I didn't get a full pat down. They did. And if you're willing to engage in conversation, not a debate, it's not me versus you, it's not I'm right, you're wrong, and not a discussion, which is theoretical, right? Discussions are how you create ideas and concepts, but dialogue is connecting me to you. Dialogue is an opportunity to find a way to understand others whether or not we agree. So I would have dialogue with my classmates, and sometimes that's hard. My classmate from South Africa genuinely would have conversations where she would go, "But what if democracy isn't the answer?" And there's a very easy way to get defensive in a room when someone tells you democracy isn't the answer. But if you take a step back and you're willing to listen, you may not agree, you may not like what they're saying, but if you're willing to understand their experiences and listen to their points of view, you might realize that they make a good point. That their history, the things that have made them into the person that they are, have also given them the opinions that they have. And that's a foundation with which we can work. Rotarians come from all sorts of different backgrounds, from all sorts of different countries, from all sorts of different religions. We look at the world in different ways. We have different experiences, perspectives. We come from different social classes and hierarchies. We come from different professions. And all of these things impact who we are, what we believe, and how we interact with the world. And it also impacts who we see. My classmates are all very different people. Whether we're standing in a kebab shop in the Czech Republic because it is the only place in our town where my Muslim classmates can get meat. Whether it's in our dorm kitchens, these dinky little Soviet-era places that our rooms are literally called cells. They're like, you're going to be in cell A, room B, and you're like, why am I going to be in a cell? To even sitting in the classroom, watching somebody make coffee in their little like French press with their little thermos of water because no coffee is good enough for them unless it's from their home country. The people are the connection point, and Rotary has the people. We just have to build the connections. And then there's food. And I know everyone loves a good food, right? We're getting ready for Thanksgiving, the best holiday of the year for food, at least. Food is the ultimate equalizer. Food is a great way to connect with others. For example, I spent winter, Christmas specifically of 2023 in Finland with one of my friends from my exchange. And I got to the door. They picked me up from the train station. We got to the front door and they're like, oh, by the way, they only found out a week ago you were a girl. I was like, what? Why would you do this to me? They're like, well, I introduce all of my friends by the country they're from. Because we have friends from France and Brazil. We have friends from Taiwan and the US. So you were just my American friend. It's like, next time you should probably give them a little bit more notice. Just a bit. But while there, they taught me how to make Karelian pies, which is actually a Finnish-Russian dish that's from about as far east as you can go in Finland. And that's right here. They're these weird looking ovals, and it is a rye flatbread crepe that is filled with rice porridge and baked. And then it is topped with egg butter. And you look at me and go, egg butter? Hard-boiled eggs that are mashed with almost an equal parts butter so that it melts over the top of the fresh-made pies. Sounds a little strange to us, but it's delicious. I got to go to a Nepalese restaurant with my classmate from Nepal who did all of the ordering. He taught me how to eat, and I say taught me how to eat because I mastered chopsticks while I was an exchange student. I never did have to learn how to eat with my hands. And he goes, I want everyone to try it once. So I start to go and he goes, no, 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 not your left hand. But I'm left-handed. No, no, no. Your left hand is dirty. Use your right. Like, I'm not coordinated with my right hand. I'm going to end up with food all over me. Or my Afghani classmate who went home for the summer to Kabul and almost couldn't make it back. But when he came to Italy, he brought us a box of homemade treats that his mom and his sisters had made at one of the local bakeries. I got to try arepas and pupusas in different styles. I saw that back there, Whitney. My classmate from Venezuela made several, and we learned about the differences between pupusas from El Salvador versus arepas from Colombia and Venezuela, and how they're made and the differences in styles. I even made Christmas dinner in Italy for my Iranian roommate. Christmas dinner with an Iranian is a very interesting tradition because she had no concept of what to expect, so I got to do whatever I wanted. I tried to make it a little traditional, a little unique, and also based off of what I could access. So I made gochujang roasted chicken. I made garlic green beans and risotto because we're in northern Italy, of course, you have to. I made Hasselback sweet potatoes and Parmesan crusted Brussels sprouts. And then I was so tired of cooking, that I just said, screw it, and made oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. But it's not just the foods that you eat, because the foods that you eat are important. They tell stories, they tell histories. My classmate from South Africa made us bunny chow, which is wild to hear the name of. But bunny chow was actually brought to South Africa, mixing South Asian traditions, curries, and foods with what was available in South Africa as people who were between classes during apartheid. So as we eat this food, which is basically curry stuffed inside of a bread roll, we're talking about these things like colonial legacies. We're talking about racism. We're talking about religion and government. We're talking about migration and mobility. We used food as a tool to connect with others, to talk about difficult conversations that make many people uncomfortable. And it didn't mean that people weren't uncomfortable, but it meant that we were still having the discussion and we were eating good food while doing it. And so you can't really yell at anyone with a mouthful of something delicious. And we did it in groups and one-on-one. Chai with my South Asian classmates. They brought 2 or 3 pound bags home with them whenever they went home, and it lasted them 2 months. And during those 2 months, they would invite everybody, 4 p.m. I was like, I can't drink that much caffeine. And they were like, you will drink this much caffeine. It's like, okay, great, cool. I'll drink that much caffeine. But we would talk about things like religion and governance. We'd talk about militaries and corruption. I learned that classrooms, while wonderful for learning theories and concepts, can sometimes limit what people are comfortable saying. Because what can't you say over a good meal? Isn't that why holidays in the US are known to be so contentious? I feel like it may be, because people are more open when they're talking through food, whether it's about the food or the ways we get the food. Food is truly the ultimate equalizer. So if you take nothing else away from anything that I've told you, I hope you know that as Rotarians, the things that I have learned on this wonderful journey, this wonderful master's that you have helped me achieve, the 3 things that I hope that you actually are able to use, whether here in your own communities or traveling, is that being uncomfortable is okay. Discomfort is a teacher, and you don't have to like the things you learn, but you should appreciate them. And that dialogue is important, because in order to be peaceful, in order to achieve resilient societies, we have to be able to communicate. And debating people doesn't make communication possible. Communication requires connection. So have a dialogue. You don't have to talk about something you don't agree on somebody with and you already know. But if you're willing to be open and understanding, if you're willing to learn why they think what they think, and you're willing to acknowledge that sometimes you're not going to agree, you'll discover you might agree on more than you think. And the last is that if you're not ready for those difficult conversations, use food, because it truly is the ultimate equalizer. Now, that's all I really had for you today, but I would love to answer any questions about anything from my scholarship to my time in Rotary to my degree or what I learned. But I hope that this was an interesting and entertaining presentation for all of you to learn about why I think this program is so important and how what I learned is applicable to you as Rotarian. Thank you.
Hi, I enjoyed your talk, and I had a question. When you were taking classes, for instance, in the Czech Republic, in what language were those classes taught?
Thank goodness they were in English. Czech is about the hardest language I've ever had to learn, and I've studied both Mandarin and Portuguese, so about as different as it gets. Czech is a very challenging language. I have been trying to pick it up. I picked up more Italian and French than I did Czech. But yes, all of my classes were taught in English. And then outside the classroom, we spoke in a very interesting hodgepodge of languages. Oftentimes it was whatever people taught others. We did a little bit better than my exchange. I think on my exchange, I almost exclusively learned curse words. They love making you say something embarrassing to adults. So like, I think we outgrew that a little bit. So I at least learned something that was outside of that. But we definitely did most of our communication in English, and I recognize that I had a privilege with that because it is my first language. So when I was searching for words, when I was trying to figure out how to express my opinions, I recognized that I had a benefit that my classmates did not.
Thank you, Megan. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I remember the last time I saw you, you had just received the scholarship, and I can see how transformative that experience was for you. So I'm very happy to hear that. I'm curious about what are your next steps professionally? So you told us about how these experiences shape you personally, but I'm wondering with the skill set that you acquire and those lived experiences with people from different backgrounds, how do you think that's going to change how you see yourself professionally from here on?
I will admit it has made my professional journey much more difficult because I am much more discerning than I think I would have been previously on the types of companies that I'm willing to apply to and the types of organizations I want to work with. I appreciate everything that international organizations can do, and I see the benefit, but I have also seen the downsides. I've seen the negatives. I've heard my classmates talk about how Egypt, which is a country that has a relatively robust economy, is one of the most in-debt countries in the world because of the IMF. And when you learn about these things as part of your class, you obviously take it home into your personal beliefs and your views. And so I have been actually job hunting, and I recognize that it's a wild job market right now, if any of you have seen globally, not just in the US. But I am also very much looking into the backgrounds of the companies that I'm applying to, which has made my job hunt, I would probably say, a little bit more challenging. I do see myself hopefully working on policy and research. I would like to be more behind the scenes rather than out in front. I've realized that I want to be one of the people talking to others and understanding how it works rather than arguing with others about how to get the funding to make it happen. I would rather look into the backgrounds and do the research and make the foundation of what is possible so that the next people can take it and they can fight out how to pay for it.
This is a softball. Please stand over there and give us a full spin. I am just loving this swag, man. Thank you, Meg.
So this is my Rotary Youth Exchange blazer. And for those of you who have not interacted with an exchange student, at the beginning of your year, you are given an empty blazer. And you are encouraged to trade pins and mementos with the people you meet, whether exchange students or Rotarians or otherwise, and you add them to your blazer. And then you are expected to wear it to and from your exchange and on the airplane. Let me tell you, going is not that bad. But this is really heavy. I pull this out for Rotary events because it's a really cool way to show Rotarians, like, hey, this is something that I got to do because of Rotary, and it makes you ask questions. I always get one. But I will say that getting this through TSA is always a little bit of a question mark because they always have to find someone who's been around long enough to have met a youth exchange student and go, oh yeah, no, that's actually a thing, and not just like a weird thing full of pointy metal pieces.
So, Megan, I'm going to ask you, I'm sure you had a lot of great classmates that you spent time with, but were there some that stood out that were people that you'll go to their country and lifelong friends and you'll be with them, and a couple of those that you're just like, they were great and I want to do more and see more and be more with them kind of thing?
Oh, 100%. So it's very interesting actually, because with 22 people, you would think that we're small enough that like you get to know everybody. You don't really have a choice. And especially the first semester, we all lived in the dorms together. So we were all within like 3 buildings of each other. So we were hanging out all the time. But I became particularly close to my classmates from Nepal, my classmates from Pakistan, and my classmates from Brazil, as well as Egypt and Italy. So my classmate from Egypt is actually back in the Czech Republic. She just got a job there. And she has been texting me literally for the last 2 days nonstop, being like, hey, when are you coming back? Because I'm lonely. My classmate from Nepal is actually in France right now. Their mother is a diplomat, which is a very interesting context to come into a master's like global development policy because we got to hear a very unique perspective from him. And he was also a wonderful resource for me in understanding the role of dialogue and media. And we have stayed in very close contact because his country, if you don't know anything about world affairs, went through a recent series of protests and government overture. And it was very interesting to talk to him and his family who's there versus our experience reading headlines and news stories and what was reality versus what was perceived and how it was communicated. And then my classmate from Pakistan is one of the people I took the longest to warm up to, and yet I think we are probably some of the closest in the cohort. Him and my classmate from Brazil, her name is Larissa, and she's getting ready to start a PhD in education policy. And the two of them were absolutely instrumental for me, both personally and education wise, because Larissa helped me pass all of my statistics courses. Uh, I am not a math person. For those of you who don't know me, my background is pretty heavily like social sciences, and doing statistics and R and microeconomics was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, and I cried through quite a number of those lectures. So they both helped me academically, and then they are some of the nicest people I've ever met, and I truly do believe that I will stay in close contact with all of them.
Very much. You indicated an interest that you want to work behind the scenes, and I'm sure you're good at that, but you're really good out front as well. Yeah. Thank you for your most interesting presentation. Now that your talk, a donation we made this quarter to the Lake Monroe Water Fund. I'd like to thank today's volunteers, John Hudson, Lynn Schwartzberg, Michael Shermis, and a couple of roles. Leslie Cinco, Martha Wales, Marilyn Wood, Dave Meyer. Actually, Tracy Jovanovich filled in for Dave Meyer today. Sarah Laughlin. Also want to recognize our Zoom and audio producer, Tyler Martin Nichols. Our next regular meeting will be on December 2nd here in the Georgian Room. Alan Boyd and Carlos Laverde will speak about the future of the Monroe County Airport. And happy Thanksgiving. And Tyler, if you would please share the graphic for the four-way test. Please stand if you're able and join me. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun?